Alert day conditions for not only strong storms, but the potential for flooding. The timing on the storms this evening and who could see the most rain in the full forecast.
Plus, concerts on the square set to return later tonight. We have a preview of the event and what happens if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate. This is News 3 Now at noon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Breiter. We begin with First Warn weather this afternoon as all eyes are on the forecast for the first concerts on the square for the 2025 season. We have team coverage today at noon. We want to start with First Warn meteorologist Blaze Keller. He's tracking the latest on showers and thunderstorms staying active, unfortunately, Blaze.
That's right. For the first day of concerts on the square, we do have an alert day. It is pretty humid outside. We've got the conditions for potentially some thunderstorms later this afternoon, some of which could be severe. Also a heavy rain threat. We've been kind of dealing with this heavy rain for the last couple of days, so the ground is pretty saturated. We do have an isolated chance for severe weather. That's the green. That's a marginal risk as we look ahead to later this afternoon. In terms of threats, the tornado threat is minimal, so we're going to be watching any thunderstorms, especially as we go into the mid to late afternoon hours for just a little bit of rotation, but strong winds as well as large hail are going to be our greatest threats, then followed by that heavy rain. Right now, speaking of rain, we do see most of that rain staying north of Dane County. We'll take it into where the showers are pretty heavy up there in Juneau and Adams County around Camp Douglas, Mauston, Preston, New Chester, back into Waushara, Green Lake and Marquette counties, Packwaukee, Buffalo, Princeton. You're kind of getting the idea here. We're dealing with those showers. No thunderstorms yet, but that could come later this afternoon. We do have a little bit of a shower, maybe a little clap of thunder there near Platteville. So future track taking us into the afternoon hours as we step ahead into the mid to late afternoon. We're seeing those pop-up thunderstorms. This is again the chance for maybe a little bit of weak rotation with some of these more isolated thunderstorms as we head into that 4:30, 5 o'clock time frame. And then as we go overnight into the morning hours on Thursday, that's when a better chance for showers and thunderstorms will move on through. So we're going to talk about that flooding chance, who's underneath a flood watch and how much rain we could see over the next 7 days in the full forecast.
All right, Blaze, we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you. You can track the forecast for yourself on the First Warn weather app. It has hourly planners, road conditions, and radar. Download it for free in your phone's app store by searching WISC weather. Well, our team coverage for concerts on the square continues now with Susan Simon. And Susan, you're gearing up for one of our favorite summertime traditions here in Madison.
It is, and we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Big time.
We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Good vibes, right. This is the 41st season, believe it or not, of concerts on the square. Tonight's concert, if it happens, is all about Motown magic. Radiance is a vocal quartet from Las Vegas, and they're bringing the music of the Supremes, Aretha Franklin, and more to life. And they'll be joined, of course, by the musicians of the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra, plus a special performance of an original piece by local composer Autumn Maria Reed. So if you're heading to the concert tonight, a couple of things you want to keep in mind. You can begin claiming your spot on the Capitol lawn at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Now, don't try to sneak in there and do it earlier because the blankets will be moved if you put them down before 3 o'clock. You can bring your own food and drink. There will be food carts and vendors, as there always are, on site, and you can also reserve a table if you prefer catering. So we hope to see everyone there, weather permitting, if the concerts are given a green light tonight. We hope you'll join us for Live at 4. Brady and I will be on location on the Capitol Square for a preview of tonight's kickoff concert. It's the first of 6 this summer season.
And you said you have about 3 outfits just in case?
Yes, I came in here with 3 sets of clothes because we don't know if we're going to be here or there. We'll have to wait and see this afternoon.
I'm glad that I'm not Alex, and I'm sure you're...
yeah. The pressure on Blaze and Alex, I feel for them, yeah.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. Fingers crossed,
yes.
though. All right, Susan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, for more on the concerts now and what happens if the weather doesn't cooperate, Armand Rahman is live on the Capitol Square this afternoon. Hi, Armand.
Hey there, Josh. Just like Susan said, we'll probably all need to bring 3 different waterproof outfits. Even for Motown time tonight, you might need waterproof dancing shoes because the ground is pretty damp right here still at the Capitol. So you might not even want to bring those blankets before 3 o'clock because they're going to get wet, or maybe put a plastic tarp down underneath them. The stage is behind us right now, and those music stands, those chairs for the performers still going up right now, even with some puddles right now underneath them. And like I said, as the chairs and tables kind of await getting ready for setup here when they get the green light, it's still very wet out here So if you're not using a blanket, which you might opt to tonight, you can bring a low to the ground chair, because chairs with tall legs or sharp feet are not allowed on the lawn. Of course, you don't want to block anyone from their viewing experience here. Service animals are the only pets that are allowed, and audio and video recordings are prohibited. If you have kids, don't forget there will be a WCO Kids booth for fun activities. Now, we here at News 3 Now will be your conductor, let's say, to make sure everything for your Concerts on the Square experience goes harmoniously. Everything opens at 5 with music beginning at 7. Now, if you are driving downtown, remember, streets will close at 3 p.m. and those streets that are impacted are the 10 blocks of Main Street and Pinckney Street, also the 100 block of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and the 100 block of East Wash. And you can find live parking availability on the City of Madison's website. And if you want to skip all of that parking hassle tonight, Madison Metro's Bus Rapid Transit, the BRT, will be running to the Capitol Square. Several routes, including A, B, E, F, and 75, will have detours, but they'll still drop you off right near the Capitol. Now, most importantly, as we've been saying, you want to make sure to be watching the weather before you head out tonight. A decision on whether or not to cancel move the show will be made by 2 p.m. today. Now, if it is postponed, the concert will happen tomorrow night at 7. If it's not, by 3 and weather moves in later, organizers say they might cancel, delay the start, or play a shortened version to work around the rain. Of course, like they say, the show must go on in some way, form, or shape. Make sure to look to channel3000.com and News 3 Now for the latest when that update drops. For now, reporting on the Capitol Square, Armand Rahman, News 3 Now.
All right, Armand, thank you. More news at noon. Monkey Shine's Bar and Grill in Fitchburg will temporarily close to improve safety. This decision comes after years of violence, police calls, and homicide last month. Last night, the Fitchburg City Council voted on whether to renew the bar's liquor license. In a narrow 4-3 decision, the council approved the renewal. The bar owner presented several changes to keep the license, including a complete name change and rebrand, transforming the venue into a family-friendly environment, and moving closing time from 1:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. The bar will shut down for the month of July to make those changes. Here's what the owner had to say.
Unfortunately, the plans we put together along with the city have not been aggressive enough. We believe that this proposal of rebranding, along with the large following of loyal customers that we have, will make it possible for us to continue running.
Fitchburg's mayor says the city will continue monitoring Monkey Shine's Bar moving forward. A fourth person involved in the murder-suicide in Janesville has died. The shooting happened just over a week ago at Aspen Square Apartments. Police found 3 people, including the shooter, dead. Officers found 1 adult with life-threatening injuries. That person later died at the hospital on Monday. The Rock County Medical Examiner's Office has yet to release their name. President Trump is meeting with world leaders at the NATO summit in the Netherlands today and is also sitting down with Ukraine's president. But the U.S.'s strikes on Iran's nuclear sites are still the dominant topic of discussion. Natalie Brand is at the White House.
We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration.
President Trump is refuting an initial classified assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency that found Iran's nuclear program may have only been set back by a few months, according to sources familiar with its contents.
It's gone for years. Very tough to rebuild because the whole thing has collapsed.
Officials familiar with the report also caution it's an early assessment that could change.
They said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated.
Later, the Israelis backed up the president, saying the U.S. and Israeli strikes set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons by many years.
The devastating U.S. strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated.
The conflict with Iran dominated the initial hours of the NATO summit, but now Russia's war on Ukraine is back in focus. President Trump met behind closed doors with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
What I took from the meeting couldn't have been nicer, actually, but I took from the meeting that he'd like to see it end. I think it's a great time to end it. I'm going to speak to Vladimir Putin and see if we can get it ended.
NATO's Secretary General also announced that members have agreed to increase spending on defense to at least 5% of their GDP. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Coming up next on News 3 Now at noon, another massive deal in the NBA, plus why Ford is recalling thousands of Lincoln SUVs.
Ford is recalling nearly 133,000 Lincoln Aviator SUVs. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says parts could become detached from the vehicle, creating a hazard for other drivers and increasing the risk of a crash. The recall affects model years 2020 to 2025. Owners can take their vehicles to a Ford dealership for a free repair. The NBA's Board of Governors has unanimously voted to approve the sale of controlling ownership of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the WNBA's Minnesota Lynx to former Major League Baseball star Alex Rodriguez and businessman Mark Lohr. The $1.5 billion deal is expected to be finalized by the end of the week. The transfer ends Glenn Taylor's 3 decades as owner of both teams. Taylor and his wife Becky released a statement saying, quote, "Our love for this organization and this community remains as strong as ever. We will always be fans." And good news for those who like to dine out with their dogs. Caesar Canine Cuisine is bringing back its Caesar Restaurant Weekend. Over the weekends of July 12th and 19th, the company is sponsoring events at restaurants in Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, and Chicago. Pet parents can enjoy meals that complement Caesar's offerings for their furry friends and take home doggy bags full of swag. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Jesse Mitchell.
Here's a look at the current stock numbers at the noon hour. The Dow is down 174 points, NASDAQ up 38, and the S&P 500 down less than a point. Our Call for Action volunteers are in the building taking your consumer complaints and taking action on your behalf. You can call for action at 608-270-2833 or submit a claim anytime at channel3000.com/call-for-action. Pam has the Farm Report next, plus Blaze is tracking the first warn forecast ahead of concerts on the square tonight. Then later on Live at 4, we'll bring you the history of the concerts along with live interviews and special guests. Welcome back. Let's check in now with Pam Bianchi for the Midwest Farm Report. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Josh. We're getting ourselves excited for next week in the 4th of July break. Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation came out with their market basket survey on how much it's going to cost for that 4th of July summer picnic. And it looks like it's going up just a little bit, about 4% compared to year-ago numbers. Farm Bureau says it's going to cost you about $69.03 to host a group of 12. Make that 10 of 12 different food items. The biggest gains as far as food item prices are concerned, the protein complex. Looking at things like that hamburger, even that hot dog in Wisconsin, for example, pork prices up a little bit higher compared to the national average, but still very affordable. You're coming in at about $7 a person to still enjoy that great summer cookout. We've got all those details up if you're looking at MidwestFarmReport.com. Here's what we're looking at. I got to congratulate one of my buddies, Jerry Apps. He's probably somebody you've bumped into if you are fond of a story about rural Wisconsin, growing up as a country kid, or you just love to listen to somebody weave a great story. Jerry is your man. He has been recognized unanimously by both legislative chambers with Senate Joint Resolution 71, which basically honors Jerry for his extraordinary contributions as an author, broadcaster, educator, and rural historian. He grew up in the area of Wild Rose. He's a past county extension agent and a professor emeritus from UW's College of Ag and Life Sciences. What a great guy to pick up such an honor. Well-deserved. Congratulations, my friend, Jerry Apps, and that special resolution unanimously approved by both legislative chambers down at the state capitol. Well, you saw Dow Jones Industrial Average is bleeding a little bit on the midday. Commodities are as well. I do want to remind you that on Monday we'll get another USDA acreage report. This is really the first time in this growing season where we're going to get a real eye on how many acres got planted to corn, soybeans, and the like. So the traders are kind of waiting for some of that information to trickle in. I'm going to be out on vacation tomorrow and Friday, so you'll have to kind of watch and see what the trends are before we get to that Monday USDA report. The dairy market trends a little bit better today. Barrel cheese up a penny and a quarter at 162 3/4. 40-pound block cheese on a Wednesday up a penny and a half at 161. Double A butter though slipped back just a little bit, down a penny and a half, still at 252 a pound. So today commodity prices kind of mimicking what's going on Wall Street. But congratulations again to Jerry Apps, one of my favorite people. I just love sitting and listening to him tell a story, and apparently I'm not alone, Josh.
Yeah, I can only imagine the stories that Jerry has. And Pam, you're off the rest of this week. I'm off next week, so it's going to be a couple of weeks before I have my Farm Babe fix again.
All right, well, I'll save it up for you.
All right, you enjoy your time off, Pam. You deserve it.
You too.
Thank you.
See ya.
Now to the latest on the First Warn forecast. Meteorologist Blaze Keller is here with the 3 things we need to know. Hi, Blaze.
Hello. We are looking at that chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms not only this afternoon, but into the evening and overnight. Again, we are going to be carefully watching as we get closer to the time of the concerts on the square to make sure that we are staying dry. Now is a good time. If you haven't done so, make sure you're downloading the First Warn weather app so that you can track out those showers and thunderstorms not only this afternoon, but as we go overnight into Thursday as well. We have a stationary front and a weak low pressure system over the parts of the Midwest, which is why it's been so muggy out over the last few days. All of that Gulf air is continuing to move northwards, providing us with these kind of constant, moderate and at times heavy showers and a few thunderstorms, especially across northern parts of Wisconsin. That changes as we head into Friday. We're going to get a little cold front, so that is going to bring us some relief. We're going to shut the door temporarily on the Gulf. That means our dew points drop. We start to clear out some of that cloud cover. But until then, we're going to be dealing with those scattered showers and thunderstorms. Again, we do have that marginal or isolated threat for a severe thunderstorm this afternoon. We're looking for strong winds and hail as the main threats, but we can't rule out not only heavy rain, obviously, but an isolated weak tornado as well. As we continue to make our way into the noon hour and beyond, we're going to watch to see if any of these discrete thunderstorms develop. This would be the best chance for that isolated weak tornado threat, as these storms are alone. They're really just eating all of the available energy out there in the atmosphere. And then we watch as more of those showers and thunderstorms come together, forming a line. This is going to be more of that wind and hail threat, along with some lightning and heavy rain as we go into the evening, overnight, and then into early Thursday. Flooding and strong winds are our 2 greatest concerns, as well as hail. And then again, with any of these isolated thunderstorms, just a little bit of rotation could give us that mainly weak tornado threat. So make sure you're staying with News 3 Now, not only this afternoon for updates on concerts on the square, but also any updates if we do have any severe weather out there. If we look at the time frame for concerts on the square, unfortunately, we're going to be dodging a few showers and thunderstorms. It is going to be muggy. Armand is out there, and he made a good point. The ground is very wet, so you may not want to be sitting on the ground if the concert isn't postponed. We will be tracking those thunderstorms, and those storm chances really increase as we go further into the evening hours. Because we're so humid, there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, which is why several of our counties, Sauk, as well as Juneau, Adams, Vernon, Crawford, and Richland counties, you're underneath area flood watch until Thursday morning, because this is the area that we could see over the next day or so, anywhere between 2 to isolated spots of 3 or 4 inches of rain. These storms are continuing to move over the same areas over and over again. We call that training, and that's the reason why we sometimes get these flooding concerns, because they're just hitting the same area over and over again, raining themselves out and producing a lot of that heavy rain threat. There is a look at your 10 and 7-day forecast. We do get a brief break from the rain and these humid conditions on Friday, but then we're back into the 90s by the weekend. And for now, it does look like we may be dodging some showers and thunderstorms for the 4th of July. The good news is by then, hopefully, things will change for the better.
All right, Blaze, thank you. Now let's see what Howard's working on in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Today, we have a summery dessert that'll bring back childhood memories. You won't want to miss it. I remember when I was a kid, we'd play outside after dinner and wait for the ice cream truck to come by. I'd either get a berry treasure or a nutty buddy. And sometimes I would get my mom a creamsicle, since it was one of her favorites. And when I did, she'd let me play outside for an extra half hour or so. So if you love the combination of orange and vanilla, then you're gonna love the brownie-like bars we're making today. All we do is add a package of vanilla pudding, a couple of eggs, and some oil to a box of orange cake mix. Once that's mixed, we toss in a handful of white chocolate baking chips. Now, since this is more like a dough than a batter, we press it into the bottom of a baking dish. Once it's level, we bake it off until it passes the toothpick test. While it's in the oven, we'll whip together a quick homemade cream cheese frosting. You could always use a pre-made frosting, but with how easy and tasty this one is, I think this is the way to go. Once you bite into these, between the orangey bottom studded with all the white chocolate chips and the cream cheese frosting, I can assure you, your taste buds are gonna be very happy. I do hope you'll go online and get the recipe for our orange cream bars as a way to enjoy the taste of summer without having to wait for the ice cream man. Hey, Kelly, come try these. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a summery way for you to say, ooh, it's so good. See how fast she comes when I call her for food?
Thanks for joining us today at noon. We'll see you at 4.